Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for coming and joining us to this webinar today. Today we're going to talk about getting started with Google Classroom. We're just going to review two basic chunks of Google Classroom, and then we're going to have another webinar tomorrow that'll go over some of the more in-depth pieces of Google Classroom. So as you can see, joining me on the webinar is the Educational Technology Training Team, and at this time they're each going to introduce themselves to you guys.
Hi, my name is John Long, and I'm a specialist with the Department of Education.
Hi, I'm Tasha Burke-Peart. I'm also a specialist with the Department of Education Technology, and I'm a Google Certified Trainer.
Dr. Eric Jorgensen. I'm with the Department of Educational Technology as a specialist, and I'm also a certified Google trainer.
Good morning, this is Dana Rubenstein, also a specialist with the Educational Technology Department.
Okay, thank you guys. And again, my name is John Shoemaker. I am also a specialist with Educational Technology. We are the EdTech training team, and our role is to help train teachers, admins, on how to integrate technology into the classroom, which, as we know right now, is going to be even more important as we move on to distance learning. So what we want to start off with is a short clip on why Google Classroom. Google calls Google Classroom their mission control. So it's basically a one-stop place where teachers can build their classroom virtually and push out resources and have students complete assignments. So we'll go through this short video, and when it's over, we'll be right back.
A few years ago, I started to watch the teachers around me passing me. It got more intimidating once the computers came. I felt as though if I couldn't get this, it would be time for me to retire.
My mother didn't receive much of an education. Because of that, she wants me to achieve great things. So each objects have their own values, different values.
At my house, I have 6 sisters and 3 brothers. Having lots of siblings is quite fun, but it's not peaceful. When I'm doing my homework, I go into Google Classroom. If I see my teacher's icon pop up, if I don't understand something, I could ask him and he'd be able to answer rather than having to wait till my next Spanish lesson.
I take the bus home. On my phone, from anywhere, I'm able to access Google Classroom. We don't have to waste time writing our assignments, wasting paper. It saves my time.
I find it useful to have classmates and teachers looking at your work. I can see where they've made mistakes and where I've made mistakes and where we can both correct them.
Ahora está muy bien. Sí, excelente.
I feel like I have made this breakthrough. You just click on their name and their document opens up immediately in front of you, and those beautiful thoughts come out.
I want to become a software developer.
I would like to get the qualifications for a judge because they help people out and stand up for people.
I want to be good my whole entire teaching career.
So we will be making this available. I apologize, I did not say that earlier. This will be available when we're finished, and we'll share where all that will be located after we're done. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about getting started with Google Classroom. We'll review how you'll be able to build a classroom, create a classroom, and also how you can add students and co-teachers to the classroom. We'll review how to add content to the classroom, such as assignments and other items. And then we'll review some additional resources we have and some tutorial pages that will be being built over the next few weeks. So with that, Tasha Burke-Peart is going to take over, and she is going to go live with you all.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go over several things, basically just introducing you to the interface. And we're using the terminology teachers and students, but as John mentioned, and when you saw in the video, there's so many different applications for Google Classroom. You could use it for, as administrators, to keep your teachers on board. Teachers can use Google Classroom to communicate with their students in this very trying situation we have here. So let's talk about how we access Google Classroom. We're going to talk about the dashboard so that you understand what you're looking at, how to add co-teachers, customizing notifications, and then going through all the settings. When it comes to access for Google Classroom, because we're at home and because your teachers and your students will be in a home setting, it is very, very, very important that they access Google Classroom from the district portal. We want them using the domain palmbeachschools.org for teachers and administrators, stu.palmbeachschools.org for students. Google Classroom, you can search it, or it is under the instructional tab, okay? So please make sure that you are entering Google Classroom through your district portal. If you happen to be on your Gmail or on your Google Drive, in the app selector at the right, you also see Google Classroom. If you don't see it immediately, there is a little scroll where you can go down, and it is one of the core applications, so you'll be able to find Google Classroom from there. So what happens if our district portal is down and you can't get to the district portal? You can directly go to classroom.google.com. That's with any of the G Suite tools. You put the name.google.com, and it will prompt you, because it's locked down to our domain, it's going to prompt you to log into the district using your district credentials. So as long as your students, your teachers understand that we're not using any personal emails, we're using district emails, we're good to go. I also have here a picture of the app, because if you're on a mobile device, if you're using an iPhone, iPad, Android device, you do need to download the app. It's a free app from Google, and I always recommend that everyone gets the core suite, the Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Classroom, Google Drive, and then you have everything that you need to operate Google Classroom on your mobile device. So we're going to look at the dashboard right now. That's what this is. If you've never gone to Google Classroom, when you first go to Google Classroom, it's going to ask you, are you a teacher or are you a student? And you want to make sure that you join as a teacher, because students do not have the ability to create classrooms. Students can only join classrooms. So if for whatever reason you're on your dashboard and you don't see the option to create a class, then it's a quick fix. Your school tech should be able to help you with that, so that you are able to actually create a class. So each one of these classes, or one class that you might have, the title is hyperlinked. So if I were to click on this title, it's going to take me to that Google Classroom, and I'll do that in a minute. The students, if you click on the students, it's also a hyperlink that's going to take you to the people page where the students are. You see all of the assignments that are upcoming. If someone has invited you to co-teach, you'll also see a button here to accept to be a co-teacher. The little arrow pointing up, this will open up the gradebook directly in Google Classroom, and when we go to Google Classroom, I'll show you that. And then finally, I want to show on this page the Google Drive folder. Now, this Google Drive folder, Google has done all the work for you. So every time you create a Google Classroom, it's going to create a folder in your Google Drive. And when students turn in work, the work becomes the ownership of the teacher. Copy of that will be in Google Drive. Your assignments will be in Google Drive. So this is sort of like your back end that Google has provided for you. On the left-hand side, these 3 lines right here, I want to point out a few things. Number 1 is at first you'll see all the classes that you're teaching, and there's a to-do, which is a handy check so that you can see for your classes what's due, what's coming up. This is like a really good one-page view of what work was turned in, which work was assigned, and how many it was assigned to. So you can keep tabs on all the work that is coming up. Also, the classes that you're enrolled in show up, but this settings gear, I want to go into the settings gear just for a minute because I want you to see your options for notifications. You receive email notifications when you get comments and classes you're enrolled in, classes you teach. So you could find yourself inundated with lots and lots of email notifications. So it does, it's a good practice to go in, look at your notifications, and figure out which ones you really want for the classroom. So again, that notifications tab is shown here in your settings. We're going to go back to the dashboard, and I want to just review how to create a class. You simply click Create a Class, and you give it a name, and then your class will pop up on your dashboard. So we're going to go into our EdTech classroom, and I want to show you a few things here. There are 4 components. You have the stream, which is just like for announcements. Whenever assignments have been posted, they show up here. You have your classwork tab, which Dana is going to walk you through creating assignments in your classwork tab. I do want to point out a couple of things. Number 1, you also have this Google Drive folder link right here, and then your Google Calendar link. This Google Calendar link is, I really love how all of this works together because in your calendar, you get a special calendar for your classroom. So all of your assignments that you assign show up not only for you, but for the students as well. So everyone can see what's due, what's coming. Only the things that you have due dates for will show up, but there's no reason for anyone not to say that they didn't see something because it shows up on their calendar. The People tab, we're going to spend a little bit of time in the People tab, and then our webinar tomorrow will go into what this actually looks like when you're grading. But for the People tab, you have it broken out to teachers and students. The little plus sign right here enables you to invite teachers to co-teach. And when you are a co-teacher, you both have the same privileges in a class. So let me just give you a scenario. Let's say you have strong trailblazers on your campus who already have established Google Classrooms, and you want to partner them up with people who need a little bit of support developing their Google Classroom. You can have them be co-teachers, and the person who needs the support for Google Classroom can then, once you're a co-teacher, you can then copy the entire classroom. You can copy this entire classroom onto your dashboard. So I can, in a sense, if my coworker, Dana, has created a Google Classroom and we're working in the same content area doing the same assignments, I can copy her entire Google Classroom and make it my own. And all I need to do is add my students to this class. Why is that beneficial? Because you're sharing your work, and now I can see I have all of the assignments that Dana has posted on here in draft form. So all I need to go do is assign those when I have my students in the class. So it's actually a very, very, very good good thing to do is to have co-teachers. And let me just get back into my classroom. Here we go. So students, how do we invite students? Normally in a traditional setting, we would give the students a join code. Students would get the join code, and you get that from this little gear on the side, the class code. This is actually the code that students would get to join. But since we don't have our students with us right now to get the join code, then you have to get creative and figure out how you're going to get that class code to students. One of the things that has been suggested is that you actually invite the students. You type them in, and as you can see, as long as you're within the domain, which you have to be in order to be in Google Classroom, as soon as you start typing in that field, names will populate. And so you can invite your students to join Google Classroom, or if you use something like Remind or some other communication to give them actually the join code, that would be another option. But the important thing is just to make sure all of your students are in Google Classroom. Let's go back into the settings because I want to show you a couple of things here. I showed you this code. This is very important. By default, students can comment on anything in the stream. And in this situation, it's actually a good thing because you don't see them face to face. So you want to be able to communicate with your students. However, we do understand that you have to set up expectations. This is a new, this is causing us to develop a new set of expectations and procedures, right? So you have to talk to your students and set that expectation so that they know up front, the parameters for commenting, because we know our students love to talk and they love to talk to one another. So you don't want to limit their voice. You just want to make sure that you're setting the expectation. If you need to start off with only teachers and post and then graduate up to students can post, then that's something that some people do as well. On that note, I will show you this very important tab right here, Show Deleted Items. I'm going to toggle that on. What happens with Show Deleted Items is if someone did post something and you needed to quickly delete it, it will be deleted for all of the students, but the co-teachers will still see it. So teachers will still see that item grayed out for 30 days, so you can take a screen capture if you need to, but students will not see what was deleted. Finally, I want to show you on this page the guardian summary. So if you have a child in the school district and you've gotten guardian summaries before, you know what it looks like. It's pretty awesome communication tool for parents. This is an example of what a guardian summary looks like. You will see the student's work, what's missing, what's upcoming, what's due, and you'll see it for every class that this child has a Google Classroom for. So the only thing about guardian summaries, you can invite parents with their email address. If they don't have a Google email, it'll prompt them to create a Google email address. But you will find probably that some of your students already have parent email addresses in there because maybe from another class, they've already been invited to guardian summaries. So this again is the settings tab. Please make sure you check your settings tab and know how to set up your Google Drive. So I have basically talked you through how to access Google Classroom. I've talked to you about the dashboard basics. We created a class, we copied a class, we added some teachers, co-teachers, so both have access to the classroom. We also talked about inviting students. I did show you how to customize your notifications. We went through calendar permissions here, and please know that students do not have the ability to create classes, only you. So I think, let's see, I want to check my EdTech team has been letting me know so that I'm staying on track. Students can post and comment.
The one thing, Tasha, the one thing that Rebecca reminded us is that default is students can post and comment. So do you want to go back and show where that is?
Default, correct, is students can post and comment. Exactly. Students can post and comment. I had changed it. So thank you for reminding me. So that is the default. So again, you're going to want to have that conversation with your students. You're going to want to have that conversation with your students. You don't want to limit their voice, but you just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page in terms of expectations. So now,
So,
Dana, I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, so you may start your students off at, no commenting and no posting until you post the rules and regulations, then gradually release by allowing them to comment and then post. So that way there's a gradual release method.
So we're going to go ahead and turn this over to Dana, who is going to talk to us through creating assignments.
Thank you, Tasha. For the next segment of this webinar, we're going to learn how we can add classwork or content to your Google Classroom. Tasha had mentioned the stream earlier. Anytime a teacher adds content to the Google Classroom, it will have a notification on the stream for people to see. To add classwork, we're going to click on the classwork tab. And notice I already have a few things here which I'm going to show you. And then we're going to learn how we can create topics, add course material, add an assignment, and add a question for discussion. Once we add topics, it's very helpful for students or users to see the table of contents on the left side. A student or teacher could click right on that topic and easily see what's going on for that particular subject. Let's take a look first at some examples, and then I'm going to show you how you can create them. We've been getting a lot of questions of how principals can host virtual staff meetings. So in this first example, we have a staff meeting check-in. In here, when we click on the title, it opens, and then I can click on View Material to see a larger view of it. This is a Google form with just 2 questions. First one, person would select their name, and then the second one would be to select the date of your virtual meeting, and then submit. As the principal or whoever creates this Google form, the responses will populate in a Google Sheet where you can easily filter and see which staff members attend each meeting. Another example is an agenda. So if you are hosting staff meetings virtually, here we have a template agenda, which of course can be modified to meet the needs of your particular school. Here, this is all done within Google Classroom. Another suggestion, if you don't want to use a Google form and you still need to see who is attending your virtual meetings, perhaps type in everyone's name on the top of the agenda, and then as your staff members join your meeting, they can bold or highlight their names. And then down below is just a template with key people at your school site that may or may not have information to share, maybe action items that your teachers or staff members need to accomplish, and then there's the column for questions. Going back to our Google Classroom, there's also an example here in the case that maybe you need to continue your professional learning communities virtually through the end of the year. So in this example, we have a Google Sheet where teachers can add notes for their PLCs. There's different tabs on the bottom. So for example, this might be the math team, the science team, or if you're at an elementary school, maybe you do it by grade level. So these are just examples of things that you can do. We will be hosting future webinars to learn how to create Google Sheets or Google Forms if that's something that interests you. I also want to show you an example from the teacher perspective. A lot of people have been wondering, how can I create my curriculum using Google Classroom? So in this example, this can be done for any unit of study. We have a topic here of the rock cycle, and then starting with the standard and objective. This is where your teachers can go on CPOMS or Blender, find the standard, and then identifying what students will learn in this particular unit. Here we have using some of our district resources, BrainPop. All students K through 12 have access to BrainPop through the portal. So this is something that teachers can go ahead and find some BrainPop activities and then add them into Google Classroom where we type directions and add some links. Discovery Education is another district-wide application for all K through 12 students. All of this goes directly into Google Classroom where students can watch videos and tutorials right on the topic. Khan Academy is a free resource for all of our students. And then finally, something so that students are accountable for what they're learning. So here we have an assignment, and in a moment I'm going to show you how to add all of this. But in this example, there's directions for students to write an essay, the elements of the essay, and then a rubric attached. We will be having a webinar tomorrow going in depth about assignments and grading and rubrics if you would like to join us at the same link at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. Now that you've seen some examples of what can be added to Google Classroom, let's learn how we can do that. On the top left side of the screen is the plus create button. This is where we add or create anything for the Google Classroom course. By clicking on this, it opens a menu. We can add an assignment, a Kami assignment, quiz assignment, question, material, reuse a post, or add a topic. So we recommend organizing your course in digestible bites. You'll notice that this example has different topics already labeled out. So to do that, we would click on topic. And then this is where you can type in whatever the unit of study is. And then click add. This will automatically go to the top, but you can drag and rearrange your topics as needed. If you need to edit the topic, there are 3 dots, an ellipse, blueberries, snowman. People have all different names for these. But if you click on the ellipse, here you can rename, delete, you can move up and down so you can edit anything that you need to. Now, let's add some material. We're going to go back to the plus create and click on material. This is where we have to add the title. And then this is where the description, this is where you or the teacher would add directions for whatever people will do with this material. Now keep in mind that this material is not something that will be submitted back. That would be an assignment. The material is one way, teacher to student, principal to teachers, where people are receiving this content. Once we have the directions, we have a few options down below. We can add something from Google Drive, a link, a file, or a YouTube video. You can also create something and it embeds right within your Google Classroom. This is how I made that form I showed you earlier, or the Google Sheet. So right here, by creating, you can create a Google Doc, slides, sheets, drawings, or forms. So, for example, if I click on one, it will create right there. It will open. This is where you will type whatever it is that you need. You will give it a name. And then when you come back to your Google Classroom, it will be attached. Once you have your title and your description and you add the content that you need, now we're going to head to the right side of the screen. We need to decide which course this will go to. If you have several Google Classroom courses, there's a drop-down, and you can send this material to multiple courses by clicking which ones you want to send it to. If you would like to differentiate instruction for different students, this part is really important. If I'm only sending this material to one course, notice I can pull down all students and I can actually decide that I only want to send this to John Shoemaker. Or imagine if I had a class full of students, perhaps this is only going to 3 students in my low reading group. However, if I am posting this material to multiple classes, notice how now over here it's grayed out. So by default, if you are posting material to more than one course, it will go to everyone in that course. Once you have that determined, then we decide what topic this will go under. There's a drop-down. If you have your topics already created, you can go ahead and click the topic name, or you can create the topic right here. This is a really important best practice to keep things organized in your Google Classroom. So for this example, I'll go ahead and put that in my water cycle topic, and now it's ready to post. On the top right corner, we have some choices. If I click on Post, this will immediately post to my Google Classroom course. Or, if we click this drop-down arrow, it can be scheduled for a future date. Maybe I want to send this on March 30th at 8 a.m., so this can be scheduled. Or, if I go back to this arrow, I can save the draft. Maybe I'm working on something and it's not quite ready. I can save the draft and then come back to it later and post it to my class. For now, I'll go ahead and post it so we can see what it looks like. So here we are back on the classwork page, and you can see that that material is posted. Now, if I need to go back and edit, I can click on the ellipse, the blueberries, the snowman, and right here, I can edit that assignment, or that material rather. Next, we're going to learn how to add an assignment. An assignment is when your audience will be submitting something back to you. So for example, if a teacher is posting an assignment, students can then submit their work through Google Classroom. Or principals, if you need something returned to you from your staff members, you can make that an assignment, and then your teachers will be able to submit that back through Google Classroom. To do that, we click on the plus Create, and the assignment is the first choice. We add our title. We add the instructions for what the assignment will need. Once again, we can add an item from Google Drive, a link to a website, a file, a YouTube video, or you can create something right from Google Docs, slides, sheets, drawings, and forms, which will embed in your assignment. Once you have that created, then we come back to the right-hand side. We select our classroom. We select our students. Remember, if it's to one classroom course, you can differentiate and only send it to the students that you want. But if you're doing multiple classes, it will go to all of the students. Or if you're having teachers in your course, it would go to all of the members of that course. Next, we decide how many points this assignment is worth. By default, it will go to 100, but you can change that. Or maybe this is something that you need to see as a measure of how students are working, but maybe it's not graded. So if that's the case, you can change this to ungraded. Now, Tasha had mentioned earlier about seeing the assignments and items on the calendar. In order for students or users to see those items on the calendar, it's important to have a due date. We click down this little baby triangle, we select a date, we can give it a time if we want, and once we have that due date, it will show up not only on the Google Calendar, but also on the to-do list for everyone to see. It's important to put your assignment in whatever topic it relates to. That helps organize our Google Classroom. And then we have the rubric. We're going to be learning more about that in tomorrow's webinar at 10:30, but it is here if you would like to explore that before tomorrow. So now we have our title, our instructions. We've decided what course, which students, points, due date, and so on. Now it's time to assign. If we click Assign, this will immediately go into the Google Classroom course. or we have another drop-down menu. You might want to schedule it for a future date or save the draft. For now, I'm going to assign so that it will populate and we can see what it looks like. Not only do we see it here on the classwork, but if I return to stream, this is also where my users will see that something has been added. Tasha had showed you earlier about notifications. If notifications are on, then the students or users would also get a notification that something has been added to the Google Classroom. The next thing that we're going to learn is how to create a discussion. So to do that, we're going to click on the plus create button. And this might be a nice way to do a check-in for students or a quick, we used to call it ticket out the door, but if our learners are home, perhaps it's just a chat or a question at the end of a lesson to see if anyone needs some additional support. So when we click on create, we have the question option. There are two kinds of questions. We can do a short answer, which is where there would be an open-ended response, or you can do a multiple choice question. So a short answer might be just a check-in for the day. And then we would tell them to comment and reply to the question. Within that, you can also, you'll see that there's a pattern here. Every time we add something to Google Classroom, we have these same options where you can add something or you can create something within this question. If you decide that you prefer a multiple choice, this will give you the same. You type in the question and then you can put in your options. And this would just be a multiple choice question. Once you have that done, we return back to the menu on the right-hand side. You pick the course that you want to share this with, if it's all students or if you want to differentiate. If this question is worth points, maybe it's not. It could be ungraded just as a check-in to see how my students are feeling today. If you would like it to show up on the calendar and on the to-do list, then we recommend adding a due date for that. And then whatever topic it aligns to. So for this one, I don't really have a topic, so I'm going to create one. And I might just call this morning check-in. Once we have that, we can either ask this right now, which will post this question in the Google Classroom course immediately, or we have the drop-down menu where you can schedule it or save the draft. For now, we'll go ahead and ask it, and this will take us back to the classroom. So now we've reviewed some examples of how we can chunk information in our course in digestible bites. We saw some examples of how to host a virtual staff meeting or a unit of study, and then we learned how to create a topic, how to add material, create an assignment where students would submit something, and how to create a question. I'm going to stop now, and if anyone has some questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Looks like my colleagues have been diligent in answering all those questions, and thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to John Shoemaker.
Thank you, Dana. And we will have some additional questions available after this slide. But we do want to let you know that there are some additional resources. In the bottom left corner of this recording, there are 3 documents. 2 of them are getting started. Those 2 getting started documents review everything that we just talked about today. And then I also uploaded the mission control video in case you missed it. Students, we will be offering the training again, but just keep in mind we are going to be doing a full webinar series that will be going out to not to parents either, to admins and teachers. So all of that will be located on our brand new Educational Technology Training Team website. So if you don't mind bookmarking edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org, we're going to have a Google Calendar right there on the main page, and you could even add it to your own Google Calendar. And we're going to be posting all of the webinars that we're going to be hosting. So that's going to be a lot of resources available live and online, but we will also be sharing all of the recordings of any of these webinars that we are hosting. So with that, we're going to end with some questions. I'm going to start off by saying, though, there was a question earlier about how do you get into virtual staff meetings. That question is beyond Classroom. So Classroom is, as Jesus said earlier, Classroom is asynchronous, so that's kind of like the teacher is not live with them. The other option is going to be synchronous, which you would be doing through Google Meet. So if you wanted to have your staff in a video conference / audio conference, if they don't have a webcam, you can create a calendar invite, add the Google Hangout or Meet with the checkbox right in the calendar invite, and then your staff can join the faculty meeting right there. Just know we are going to be doing trainings on Google Meet as well. So be on the lookout. Keep a look on our website, edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org, for any Google Meet webinars. That's how you would hold an actual live faculty meeting with you being on the screen sharing with others. So with that, are there any other questions in the chat for people that would like to share any other questions? How will the teacher know if student has responded to short answer responses? So the teacher will get notifications if they have those on. I know someone else said, had the question about getting too many notifications. So the teacher can go in and change any of their notifications. So if you don't want to get 9,000 emails as the admin, you could turn that off if you're required to be in all the classes. But for a teacher, they will get the information right through email. And also, my team, the EdTech team, if you don't mind hopping on your mics to answer questions as well, please feel free if I'm missing them as they go by. There already is a tile in the portal for Classroom. They can just search for Classroom and click on it.
I did see a question about live lectures, products like Adobe or Google Meet. What we're using for this particular webinar is Adobe Connect, and Google Meet has been opened up for everyone, and it pretty much does the same thing. You would be able to record your sessions in Google Meet, so we kind of recommend that you would use that for your live lectures.
And again, we'll be doing some training on that.
Recorded as well.
Correct. For those of you asking for the link on this video recording, it will be posted there as well. I don't know if there's a way. I know you can export your students from the SIS, but I don't know if you can. Can you paste multiple emails in at once?
There's not a good way to do it. We'll just leave it as simple as that.
Okay. Regarding teachers doing live lectures, the easiest way to explain this is EdTech is the how to do things. We are showing you how to do Google Classroom, Google Meet. Curriculum is in charge of handling the what to do. So those questions would have to be directed to curriculum. Regarding Zoom, Zoom is not an approved product right now. So if that is out there in the wild, then it's sharing personal information that we have not gone through the approval process. Google Meet is part of the Google Suite, which is our core product, so that's what we recommend.
The student username and password, that's it's what the students use to log into the computers at any site, whether they're doing iReady or SuccessMaker or things like that.
I think that's the easiest way to explain it to parents or to students who are still too young. You could just say, you know, how do you log into iReady? And most students at this point are able to type in that username and password. I also believe for secondary they have suspended password changes, so you shouldn't have to deal with that either. We're also going to have office hours as ed tech staff, so teachers will be able to sign up and we can go through and try to help them in small groups or individually. We're here to support everyone to make this as successful as possible.
John, do we have a slide that has the website that we can post up there? I know a bunch of people were asking. I know it's in the chat, but if we can put the slide up.
It'll be on our final one, so I'll put up the final slide just for everyone. Maybe.
What are our hours going to be? That is a good question. With all of this being so fluid, we are working on that, but we will make sure that that gets posted and sent out to all of you as well.
What we'll probably do is our calendars will have appointment calendars where teachers will be able to click in and sign up for a spot. They'll be able to see what hours we're going to block off for office hours for that purpose, and they'll be able to sign up right there for any of our team members. This slide has our URL in the top right corner. It also has all of our information, including our email and Twitter handles. Please feel free to take a picture of this, screenshot it, whatever you want, so that you have it for your reference. And if there aren't any other questions, please feel free. You can take off for now, but we'll stay here for as many questions as there are to answer.